the intersection of a couple of generations of bike paths. We've got the two-way bike path, which was one of the big major original projects. And it's really kind of underdimensioned. It's narrower than it should be. And then they developed this Griouant, which are single lane. And so you've got one on each side of the street, but they basically run on the sidewalks. What's happened is that they've been so successful that you have really large numbers of people cycling to work or biking around the city. And so every intersection, you have way too many bikes compared to what it's been designed for. And then there's some new streets now. The latest ones are really a level up from all of that. This is Rue Lafayette. It's one of the longest streets in Paris, and this is one of the newest bike paths in Paris. It's a two-way bike path, just opened up about a month ago, this section of it, and they're still building the next section. It's one of the new generations of bicycle paths in Paris. What's really nice about it is that, first of all, the width is constant, so it doesn't get narrower like some of the older ones. You're not sharing the sidewalk with pedestrians. It's pretty well protected, so it's a pretty safe and comfortable way to travel on bike, popular with cyclists. And this is a real demonstration of the design capabilities that they have in the city now.
When I came back 5 years ago, I was so happy that there were bike lanes, but then people started biking more and more. And the bike lanes sometimes are very narrow. So now what's happening is also that we get like bike lanes that are wider.
Now we need to widen all these bike lanes. So now having 1 meter 80 for each direction flow, we are hoping that we are building infrastructure for the future. But it might not be enough. We might need to have them even wider.
Well, we're on Boulevard Saint-Michel, near downtown Paris, in front of the Place de la Sorbonne, which is Sorbonne University. It's a very busy street that takes you from the outskirts directly south into Ile de la Cité, so the core of downtown. It used to be an interesting place to go biking because of all the heavy traffic. So then they added a shared bus, taxi, and bike lane, which was pretty good. And it's over there where you can see the bus. Except for you would often find yourself in conflict with buses and taxis, and you slow it down, taxi, you pull over to over where the garbage is and let them pass you and stuff. So now what they added was a dedicated bicycle lane on this side of the road. And later they updated it to be bidirectional. So now we got this bidirectional bike lane heading up on the right side of the road here. And when they did it, they added separation. A lot of people know that you put in bike lanes, and then what happens immediately is the delivery trucks come and block your bike lane, you're forced back out into regular traffic. That's a common frustration. I kind of sympathize with the delivery guys. They need to do their job and they need a place to stop. So what Paris has done, and in a lot of places now, they're using deliveries as a safety feature for the bike lane. So what you see here marked in yellow is an area called livraison, which is French for deliveries. So it's deliberately made so that the vehicles that are doing their deliveries and the guys working block traffic from the bicycle lane. So it actually gives you separation instead of giving you danger.
So I have been to Paris a number of times, and I remember riding in teeny little gutters next to cars, and and a lot of those where people had pulled over in their cars and blocked them. And suddenly Paris has opened up for people. I mean, there are a number of protected bike lanes, fully protected bike lanes with, concrete barriers. And this clever mayor, Anne Hidalgo, has also said, because the Olympics are coming, we should be a welcoming city for all people, and the best way to do that is to open some of our most beautiful and iconic streets, including the Rue de Rivoli.
The Rue de Rivoli is a main east-west axis. Actually, it's almost the historical east-west axis of Paris. And it had about 25,000 cars a day just 3 years ago in 2019, just before COVID. We had that amount of cars and buses. Now we have in the range of 25,000 bicycles a day. That's because we have suppressed the through traffic.
And now that street, the Rue de Rivoli, is just for people on bikes, people walking, taxi cabs, and buses. It's totally transformed that area, and of course it's turned it into this even more vibrant and even more important street for Parisians.
So I live in the 11, there is like 3 roundabouts, the one at République, Bastille, and Nation. It was only for cars, not even for... Even if you were walking there, it will be an issue. You will have to go all around to go from one point to another. Now, all those 3 roundabouts all have bike lanes. The one at Bastille, I recommend you to go because it's really well done. It's like all around the Bastille Tower. It changed everything. The other thing with the roundabout is like they all have a beautiful monument in the middle that you will never have access to back then, because cars were all around it. Now they have to do the one at Champs-Élysées, so we can finally access to one of the most important monuments in Paris.
So Stijn van Oosteren, who showed me around Paris last time I was here, said do not leave Paris without visiting Quai de Valmet. I didn't have a lot of time, but when he told me it was now fully pedestrianized and called it the street of the future, well, I made time for a quick visit. Apparently during the middle of COVID, the street was closed every Sunday for recreation. The street borders both sides of the Canal Saint-Martin, and it's easy to see how popular it is. I grabbed a Velib and got up there very quickly and got caught in the middle of a downpour, but even when I got there were still people walking, a lot of people running, bicycling, and just generally enjoying the canal. And after searching online for a while, I was able to find a bit of video showing what the canal looks like when there are cars on it. And I think it's so important that people have places to recreate and relax in big cities where you don't hear the noise of cars.
So here we are in the 12th arrondissement still, where the municipality is very ambitious on developing bicycle, closing streets and everything. So here is an example where before the streets was 2-line street for cars. So basically all this was for cars, and the municipality decided to close it and to make it upper and for bicycle only. So basically all the cars that you can see that come from the other side, they have to use the big streets. This closed all the traffic, a lot of traffic from cars that were coming from there. I mean, now you can see there are still some, but before it was a very useful way for cars to go there through the exit of Paris. And since we closed this, it's way more difficult because it makes you go back from where you were. So this helped the cyclists and also reduce the car by changing the traffic maps.
The French word is liberté, and that's what you feel when you're biking in Paris. It's a liberating place to be, particularly in the downtown area, but it's spreading out throughout the entire city of Paris with the school streets and other bike paths. I mean, suddenly, if you're a person who walks and bikes places, you have the freedom, the liberté, to go anywhere. And that's going to happen in the next, by the end of Anne Hidalgo's term, which is in 2 years. I have great faith in her. She's got, great plans underway, and I believe she actually has the oomph to make them happen.
One of the amazing things here is how quickly these changes are taking place in Paris. And I think a lot of people look at Holland and the Netherlands as the example of what it could be if you're really committed to alternative mobility and ideas like that. I think Holland is that example, but Holland is what you can do if you take 4 decades to steadily and go after these things and make things more safe, lighter touch mobility. Paris is what can happen if you really are aggressive, you have the courage of your convictions, and you go after it. It's what you can do in 10 years.
Because when I came back from New York 5 years ago, I was so shocked at how many bike lanes I found, because I left in 2010. So back then, I was not biking in Paris. I will not bike because for me it was dangerous. So hopefully in 5 years, it will be even much better.
One of the under-celebrated things I hope you've been able to see when you're in Paris is something called the Paris trombone, and it is this bike rack. And this bike rack is phenomenal. It's very, very strong, so if you lock your bike to it, you know they're not going to cut through the rack that you've locked it to. So it gets up high to the middle of a bike frame, so you can actually lock your frame to something solid. It has these two trombone, like a paperclip things, that give separation between the two bikes, so your pedals and the other guy's pedals aren't intertwining with each other's spokes. Buried in the ground in two places, and they put them about 3/4 of a yard apart, a space in between, enough room for two bikes in between when things get tight. But just simple, decent looking, phenomenally functional stuff.